morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you. Welcome to the Full 100 TFH, where the truth is told. Today, guys, is Wednesday, the 20th of May, and we are cracking on with lockdown, as most people are across the world. Guys, today's show, obviously, we definitely keep this serious. Coronavirus is a serious thing. Politics is a serious thing. But every so often, it is good to have a laugh, because sometimes if you're not going to laugh, then you might as well cry. So without further ado, guys, let's get to it. I'm going to start today's show in a very, very different way. Here's Jimmy Kimmel Jr. Enjoy this clip. Take a look.
Hi there, I'm Jimmy Kimmel. Welcome to my breakfast nook. Thank you for welcoming me into yours. You know, I was thinking about this, and last night I was thinking this would be a great time to go to rehab, wouldn't it? I mean, really, what's the difference? And who would know? Our president may be headed that way. Ronald McDonald Trump dropped a real doozy yesterday. He sent the press into a frenzy, announcing that, remember that drug he had high hopes for, and then they did some studies and found that it did not help COVID patients and in fact made them more likely to die? Well, yesterday, Donald Trump announced that he's taken it.
The frontline workers, many are taking it. I happen to be taking it.
Hydroxychloroquine?
I'm taking it, hydroxychloroquine.
When?
Right now, yeah.
When?
A couple of weeks ago, I started taking it. Because I think it's good. I've heard a lot of good stories.
He's heard a lot of good stories. He got a checkup from Dr. Seuss and heard a lot of good stories. You have to hand it to Trump. Just when you think it can't get any crazier, he starts popping FDA-disapproved drugs and telling everyone else to try it too. Why the president would take drugs that his own health agencies, the NIH and the FDA, do not recommend as a preventative treatment for coronavirus is a mystery to all of us. But when Donald Trump digs in, he is dug no matter what the consequence.
Can you explain, sir, though, what is the evidence that it has a preventative effect?
Here we go. You ready? Here's my evidence. I get a lot of positive calls about it.
He gets a lot of positive calls about it. He hears a lot of good stories, and he gets a lot of positive calls about it. Our president is a hydroxymoron. You know, it's hard to process, but are we surprised that the guy who thought windmills cause cancer thinks a lupus drug kills coronavirus? You know, I looked up the side effects of this miracle drug Trump is now taking. They include severe mood or mental changes, check. Feeling that others can hear your thoughts, check. Feeling, seeing, or hearing things that are not there, check. Large, hive-like swelling on the face, eyelids, lips, tongue, throat, hands, legs, feet, and sex organs, let's say check. And diarrhea. If I was a reporter in the White House press pool, every question I ask from now on would be about diarrhea. Mr. President, have you been experiencing any diarrhea? Mr. President, I have a question about the economy. Is that giving you diarrhea? You know when you go to the gas station, there's that rack of pills that claim they make your penis bigger, and you think, who actually buys those? Well, the answer is our president.
I get a lot of tremendously positive news on the hydroxy, and I say, hey, you know the expression I've used, John? What do you have to lose? Okay, what do you have to lose?
So I
have been taking it for about a week and a half.
You had no symptoms, sir?
Zero symptoms. No, I haven't had any. No, I test every couple of days. They want to test me.
I think it's an improvement. The truth is, I don't think Trump has any idea what drugs he takes every day. He's like a dog. Mike Pompeo just puts the pills in peanut butter and feeds it to him. Why would he do this? Why would he do this to prevent coronavirus and not wear a mask to prevent the virus? I thought about it for a long time last night. I've come to what I think is the only reasonable conclusion. He's trying to kill himself.
Welcome back. I'm sorry, like I said to you guys who saw my video yesterday, when I first saw this news about Trump taking hydroxychloroquine, firstly, there was 10 seconds of shock, and then there was 5 minutes or 10 minutes of laughter. I found that clip today, and I thought I'd share the joke with you guys. But listen, let's get back to the seriousness. All right, guys. So I want to start today with an update on the same topic, Trump and the chloroquine, guys. You have heard me mention Fox News, right? Fox News, if Hitler had a TV station called TV Hitler, Fox News is TV Trump. Okay, they excuse everything he does. They pretend they didn't see the worst of it. But they had to draw a line on the hydroxychloroquine, which I will never take my hat off to them. However, for those whose lives they saved, because all of Trump's 35% of uneducated Americans who's back him, they all watch Fox News. Fox News is their Bible, okay? So they have saved a lot of lives by taking the route that I'm about to show you guys. So this is a clip from Neil Cavuto, who is a presenter on Fox News. This is how he took the news about about Trump. Take a look, guys.
Was stunning. The President of the United States just acknowledged that he is taking hydroxychloroquine, a drug that meant really to treat malaria and lupus. The President has insisted that it has enormous benefits for patients either trying to prevent or already have COVID-19. The fact of the matter is, though, when the President said, "What have you got to lose?" in a number of studies, those certainly vulnerable to the population have one thing to lose: their lives. A VA study showed that among a population of veterans in a hospital receiving this treatment, those with vulnerable conditions, respiratory conditions, heart ailments, they died. There are also a number of other studies out, including the Journal of the American Medical Association, which examined some 1,438 individuals in the New York area across 25 hospitals from the middle of March to the end of March. The study was a real chance to look at the benefits that the President insisted were hydroxychloroquine. They concluded that among residents hospitalized in metropolitan New York with COVID-19, the treatment or both compared with neither treatment, no statistical differences. A second study done by Joseph Gilleris and colleagues at the New York Presbyterian Hospital, Columbia University Irving Medical Center in northern Manhattan from March 7th to April 8th also showed there were no visible differences, that the risk of intubation or death was not significantly higher or lower among patients who received hydroxychloroquine versus those who did not. The VA study to which the President alluded wasn't a loaded political one. It was a test on patients there, and those who took it in a vulnerable population, including those with respiratory or other conditions, they died. I want to stress again, they died. If you are in a risky population here and you are taking this as a preventative treatment to ward off the virus, or in a worst case scenario, you are dealing with the virus, and you are in this vulnerable population, it will kill you. I cannot stress enough. This will kill you.
Welcome back. Now, you know, you've got to be nuts not to say nothing. You know, he's the only nutty person that's still defending it. I'm about to show you guys a video where he actually defends this, right? So even his own supporters, Fox News, are not defending this. No sensible person is defending this. However, he is. Now, you see the thing with the world we're living in now? The world we now live in is totally upside down. Trump and his followers, and many of my community people who follow that sort of fake news bubble, what they're doing at the moment is really turning the world upside down, sideways, this way up, that way up, this way up, you know, twisted over. So much so people actually don't know what's true and what's not true anymore. Take an example of Dr. Fauci. Trump has this habit that you can't be more trusted than he is, no matter how much lies he tells. You can't be more popular than he is. So Dr. Fauci comes along. He appoints him as his CDC person, as his czar to fight coronavirus. He tells lies, Dr. Fauci tells the truth. He tells lies, Dr. Fauci comes back and says, no, well, I wouldn't quite say that. And he's dealing with the truth, like anybody with integrity does. After about a month, they take a poll And 76% of people trust Dr. Fauci and 35% of people trust Trump. That was it. As soon as he saw that, the bandwagon began to discredit Fauci, you know? Like, he retweets. Who does this? One of his naughty supporters must have tweeted, "Oh, just sack that guy, sack Fauci." He retweets it. That's a bit like getting married to a woman. A month into your marriage, one of your friends doesn't like your wife. So your friend tweets, I wish Jerry would just divorce his wife. And you retweet that. You retweet it. As if that's not bad enough. He's now defending his chloroquine blunder or madness. Mind you, I told you yesterday, I don't actually think he's taking it. There's two options, I think. I think he's either caught it and they haven't said anything, so they're giving it to him to see if he saves him, what has he got to lose, as he says, or he's actually lying out of his teeth and telling people he's taking it, and which is more dangerous. But anyway, he's now saying that remember, lots of countries ran trials on hydroxychloroquine. It wasn't just America. Apparently there was 2 trials in America. I know Japan had a trial. I know Brazil was the first to stop theirs because they lost 8 people on their trial. I know Germany was running the trial and France was running the trial. So from what I know, there was America, 2 in America, France, Brazil, Japan, and Germany. So 5 countries, as far as I'm aware. I'm sure there was more, because hydroxychloroquine is a popular medicine in the tropics. So the test that all these institutions ran and concluded immediately, stop this. This is no good for coronavirus. It's not good for it. So they all stopped after losing 8 people in Brazil. Yeah. He's now defending his blunder by saying it was his enemies that gave hydroxychloroquine the bad rep. People who didn't like him. So you appoint scientists, you task them to look into a drug. They report back and say the drug's no good for that. Other countries have done the same trials. They all say it's no good for that. But in your little head, Trump, it was your enemies who put the drug down. It wasn't, they don't like me. That's why they put hydroxychloroquine down. Take a look, guys.
Right now, of these lines being drawn between politics and science, it's how the president talked about these studies that have been done on hydroxychloroquine. I want to play that sound for both of you now.
If you look at the one survey, the only bad survey, they were giving it to people that were in very bad shape. They were very old, almost dead. It was a Trump enemy statement. That study was a phony study put out by the VA.
Again, you know, it's one thing, Sanjay, and Dan, I definitely want your take on this too. It's one thing, Sanjay, to say, you know what, I'm taking it. I had a conversation with my doctor. We decided it was the best course. There are implications there that are troubling in and of itself, but that's one thing. It's another thing to go to war against this study, which was done by researchers and scientists. By the way, it's also inaccurate to say there was only one study, but he's going to war against these scientists saying that there's somehow Trump enemies. There's no evidence of that, is there?
There's absolutely no evidence.
The FDA has said hydroxychloroquine should not be used outside of a hospital setting or
No, that's
outside
not what
of
I was told.
research
No,
study. So
there was a
we-
false study done where they gave it to very sick people, extremely sick people, people that were ready to die. It was given by obviously not friends of the administration. And the study came out, the people were ready to die. Everybody was old, had bad problems with hearts, diabetes, and everything else you can imagine. So they gave it. So immediately when it came out, they gave a lot of false information. But that study was a phony study put out by the VA. You may want to talk about that. I mean, we could talk about that if anybody wants to, and maybe I'd ask Alex to talk about then. If you would introduce our great talented head of the VA and let him say a couple of words. But that was a phony study, and it's very dangerous to do it.
As the president said, and I'll ask Secretary Wilkie to talk a bit about the VA study, There's been some studies around the use of hydroxychloroquine later in disease progression. But we are still working on some controlled studies earlier in the disease progression to see if we can measure the effectiveness of it in preventing the replication of the virus and spread in mild to moderate cases rather than the more serious. And that data is still pending.
And it's gotten very good reviews, very good from many doctors, many doctors. Secretary, please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Total madness, isn't it? I mean, this is what I mean. I feel like we are living in an alternate world. Like, this isn't the kind of world that I remember just 4 years ago. And I'm not talking the world when I was younger. No, I'm talking literally before this guy came into power. Since he's come into power, those who back him have twisted the truth just to keep him in place. As Jimmy Kimmel says, I think they're wasting their time. I think this guy does not want a second term. Jimmy Kimmel must be right, because he has done everything possible not to get re-elected. It's crazy. Guys, let's move on to another mad one. So Russia is now on its knees. I brought you guys the clip yesterday from the Four Amigos, as well as the new one we've just added to that list, but we're not going to call him an amigo. He's on his own, but he's with them, which is Belarus. So Russia at the start of this, obviously a strong man. He thought Russia was too strong to be affected by coronavirus. He thought Russia was like him, you know, and bopping everywhere, shaking hands and everything. But now Russia is on its knees, so much so that the US are sending Russia, I believe it was 200 ventilators, but the first 50 were leaving today to go to them. Now, when this started, Russia was sending everybody ventilators and PPEs because he thought, yeah, I'm the big guy. And then people started to send him PPEs to help him out. So now America's sent him 200 ventilators. Imagine a country of 180 plus million people, 200 ventilators. You're that on your knees that you actually, yes, please, yeah, we'll take any amount you got. You got 50 now? Let's take 50 now. Yeah, we'll take 50 now. So have a look at this video, guys.
Sending a shipment of ventilators to Russia to aid the country's coronavirus battle. A US spokesperson said 50 ventilators will be ready to go in the day ahead. President Trump has promised to send a total of 200. Russia has become one of the epicenters of the virus. And for more, I'm joined now by Matthew Chance. He's there in London. Good to see you, Matthew. So what is the latest on these ventilators and on the way President Putin has been handling this pandemic?
Well, in terms of the shipment of medical aid, which includes, as you mentioned, 50 ventilators from the United States, we understand that that shipment is going to be dispatched from the US today. We're not sure exactly when it's going to arrive in Russia, but obviously it'll be pretty soon. 50 ventilators at first, along with some other medical supplies as well. Another 150 to follow. And I suppose it's interesting because just last month, it was the other way around. Russia sent a shipment of Russian-made ventilators to the United States, to New York and New Jersey, where there was a massive sort of outbreak of coronavirus there to try and assist. That model of ventilator, interestingly, that Russia sent later in Moscow and St. Petersburg is believed to have caused hospital fires, which killed a number of coronavirus patients that were hooked up to those ventilators and that were on those wards. And so the ventilators that Russia sent to America were actually never put into service out of those concerns. But I think the very fact that a month ago Russia was sending aid to the US, it was sending aid to Italy and to Serbia as well, and said it was in control of its pandemic and of the outbreak of coronavirus there. Contrast that with what the situation is now, where Russia has the highest number of coronavirus infections in the world after the United States. Latest figures this morning bringing that recorded number up to just over 308,000. It shows you just how much the situation has spiraled really out of control in Russia in recent weeks, Rosemary.
Matthew Charles.
Welcome back, guys. Ain't there a turn up for the books? I mean, my heart goes out to the people of Russia. I hope they're all right. I hope the ventilators get to the destination, and I hope they work. However, as you see from that clip, the ventilators that Russia sent to the US were never used. because Russian-made ventilators were blowing up the hospitals and killing patients. I don't like to laugh at bad news like that, because yeah, it killed people. However, the ventilators he was sending to help countries were blowing up and killing people. So Russia needs to rethink its ventilators building strategy. And in the meantime, it needs to reach out and get help. So I really hope for their sake and for those people that need him waking up, which he's woken up now. So he's trying to do the right thing. So I wish him the best. I wish them all the best, only for the reason that if they succeed, then the people are saved. More of the people are saved. And to be honest, I started this platform to get people informed so that they can make informed decisions, so that they can save lives, so that they can. There were so many people that didn't believe this was real, that I just could see many people going out there without protection, thinking, oh, this is rubbish. And it really scared the living daylight out of me. So, but thankfully, people are, you know, even those of you that thought this was 5G, you know you've lost that battle. So you're going to lose the battle on the vaccine as well, because it's not going to be Bill Gates' vaccine. It's going to be a real deal. It's going to be some companies somewhere, and many other companies. There are going to be different brands of it, because every company that produces it is going to be trying to put it out in the market. So guys, like I said, this platform is about keeping people informed so they can make informed decisions. One of the reasons you need to be informed to make an informed decision is so that you know which choices to choose when it comes to that point in deciding stuff. When it comes to the point, do I take a vaccine or not take a vaccine? You're informed enough to say yay or nay. It doesn't matter which way you go, but at least you know what happens coming up to the vaccine. If you're saying no because you've done then you're not making an informed decision. If you're saying no because I'm not going to take this one, and there's one I've been watching that's coming out of Switzerland, I'm going to wait till the one out of Switzerland comes. That's an informed decision. That at least you're making a decision based on what you've watched. Okay, guys? So that's my whole reason for doing this. And that takes me to my next topic, guys, which I brought to you guys at the end of last week, about the new baby syndrome coming, that is developing. And it's funny enough, it's not showing up in Asia, and so far as we know, it's not showing up in Africa or South America as yet. We don't know, because this is so new. However, it's shown up in Europe and it's shown up in the US, and it's the case of I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Kawasaki disease. Please, those of you if your children are anywhere from say 14, 15 and below, please go and research a disease called the Kawasaki disease. It brews in children. It's a disease that attacks children, basically. And a new symptom, a new evolving of COVID in children and young teens is showing this Kawasaki type manifestation of the disease in them, and it's really critical. We need to stay on top of this. So I brought you guys a little clip last week. Here's another bit of update on that for those of you who have children in that age category. Please take a look and take it very, very seriously. Thanks. Take a look.
A dozen children for a condition that is being linked to the coronavirus. Doctors say the symptoms are similar to Kawasaki disease, with fever, stomach pain, and inflammation. It is not clear how the children became infected. The World Health Organization says they are closely monitoring this rare syndrome. Cyril Vanier joins me from Paris on this one. And are doctors making a definitive link between a COVID infection and this disease? Are they saying one is causing the other?
Not yet, but they are saying that is very likely the case. And Hala, I have some sad news to report. For the first time, a child has died in France of Kawasaki-like symptoms. So it was a 9-year-old boy, happened a few days ago, but was reported yesterday and today by the hospital. And they explained a little bit more about his circumstances, and he presented the same symptoms as this rare pediatric disease that we've come to know, and it's called the Kawasaki disease. That's to say, a high constant temperature and acute inflammatory symptoms. Now, you can have inflammation of your organs and, in the worst cases, of the heart. And this boy, this 9-year-old, died of heart failure. And he was tested positive for COVID. Now, he was either an asymptomatic carrier, which means at the time that he had COVID, nobody realized it, or he was a mildly symptomatic carrier at most. And this, Hala, is totally consistent with the cases you were talking about, which is a study that has just been done about Kawasaki-like cases at the main pediatric hospital in Paris, where it's exactly the same scenario that plays out. These children come in with these Kawasaki-like symptoms. A majority of them had to be taken to intensive care. In Paris, fortunately, they responded well to treatment. Again, to your question, the doctors were asked, is this caused by COVID? They said very, very, very likely yes, but we cannot at this stage, with such a small sample size, confirm that from a medical standpoint, and there's going to have to be an international consensus on that.
Right, and because, as our viewers know, in the beginning of this pandemic, we were being told that children were most likely asymptomatic carriers and very seldom became ill. So how concerned should parents be here?
Well, look, the doctors today were at pains to point out that these cases are very rare. There have been 135 cases of children who have been admitted to hospital presenting these Kawasaki-like symptoms. There has been one death. So if you, relative to the number of coronavirus cases, yes, statistically it's very low. But Hala, as a parent, I can tell you every parent's going to be worried. And it does mean that the possibility does exist that the coronavirus could have very serious, even life-threatening consequences for children, even if it's statistically improbable. And what we saw today was just that. And it explains why so many people have been so cautious, because I think there's now a national understanding, and an international understanding, in fact, that we're finding out more and more about this virus every day, and that, yes, we were told a month ago this was relatively safe for children and relatively benign. It turns out that is not always the case.
Welcome back, guys. Guys, please take it seriously. Listen now, look out for that type of syndrome. Again, the only thing I will definitely say is, if you go and research the Kawasaki disease, then you can have a hint or an idea of what you're looking for, if that ever turns up. We're unlocking in a minute, guys, okay? We're coming out in a minute. And yesterday I showed you guys a spread video. I've got another one today for you guys to have a look. It's another one. This involves coughing, and just to see what happens when you cough, so I am expecting a second wave. I am expecting a second wave, and I'm expecting a second wave not because I'm a doomstar or anything like that. It's because I'm watching the progression of things. I'm watching countries who got it absolutely right have a second wave, and I'm watching us who messed it up the first 2 months of this and are still catching up, and we're trying to unlock like we've already got it right. So clearly, to me, there will be a second wave. But you see, this second wave over here is more frightening, because we won't even be able to identify a second wave quick enough, because the testing is not in place yet properly. You can catch a second wave in the first week. South Korea, they found the beginning of a second wave from one nightclub. One person in that nightclub infested about, I think it was 140 people. And they're still tracing those who came in contact with those who were at the nightclub. But it takes that testing. So if that scenario was to be replicated in the UK, one nightclub, one person goes into the nightclub, infected all these people. When do you think the UK will find out that the second wave began? It won't be with that bunch. That bunch that South Korea caught would have infected another probably 50, 60, 70,000 people, who would then be infecting another 1 million people before we catch on to it. And that's the danger in the way that we're opening up, guys. Guys, let me go on to another new vaccine. Yesterday, I brought you guys Moderna. Moderna have tested on mice, and they're now on the human trial. The first batch of humans to be trialed, there was 8 of them. Those 8 human beings have had 2 injections each, 2 vaccines each. They've had the first vaccine and they could see that they developed antibodies. They've had the second vaccine and they could see the antibodies had multiplied, and basically the immune was stronger by the second one. Most of them, if not all of 8, are going back in July, at which point they're gonna look at them again in July. So we're now in May. So in another 8 weeks from now, we'll be getting the feedback from the second batch of the second injection that they've just had, which will be checked out. So that's Moderna. So they're sort of, I'll say, halfway up, because once you've done the animal, if you call the animal test a quarter of the way up, then the human trials begin, the other quarter of the way up to take you to halfway up. Then the other half of the process is really data and monitoring of data and monitoring of people, and then you can declare success. So if you can say that Moderna are 50% of the way there, this company that I'm bringing you guys is called a company called Novio. Okay, Novio are at the quarter of the track. So they're testing animals, and so far they're testing guinea pigs and they're testing mice. And so far it looks spectacular from what I've heard. It looks really good. So these 2 companies are both American. As I said to you guys, these companies are independent of each other. They're in a race. It's like a marathon. It's like running a marathon. You think your competitor is going to let you win or lie for you or help you in any which way? They're all in this race together. They're all in the race, but not together. They're all in the race independently. So Novio has had success on mice and guinea pigs, okay? And Moderna are already having success on people. So again, these are stages of the vaccine, and I'm going to keep bringing them to you. As soon as I hear another one, I'll bring it here. So take a look at Novia's story with the vaccine that I'm talking about. Take a look.
Here's a developing story. Another U.S. drug manufacturer is claiming success with an experimental vaccine trial that has shown positive results in animals. CNN senior medical correspondent Elizabeth Cohen joins us now with the details. So, Elizabeth, this has shown positive results in mice and guinea pigs. So how excited should we be right now?
You never get as excited about animals as you do about humans. And even with humans, you take into account this is early on. This is a marathon, not a sprint. It is certainly good news that now the third, or one of the 3, another one of the 3, I should say, American U.S. Vaccine makers is seeing success in animals. You always do animals first, and then you do humans. A few days ago, we heard about humans with Moderna, now animals with Novio. So it's definitely good news, but, it could still fail. None of these are too big to fail at this point. They are all in the early stages. So these animals developed what are called neutralizing antibodies, Allison. And so what that means is that the antibodies managed to glom onto the virus and disable it so that it couldn't attack the actual animal's cells. So again, good news, but as researchers like to joke, mice lie and monkeys exaggerate. So things that work in animals often don't work in humans. Often they do, but often they don't.
That is some good vaccine humor right there. So basically what I hear you saying is that Moderna is farther along than Inovio. So does this mean that Moderna has already tested it in mice and guinea pigs and they've passed that hurdle?
They've tested it in some form of animals. I can't remember if it was mice or ferrets or guinea pigs. But by definition, if you're testing in humans, you've already tested in animals. We test in animals to make sure that it's safe, because you wouldn't want to just start with humans and harm someone. So we start with animals. The most common are mice and ferrets and sometimes monkeys. Usually not, because monkeys are very expensive. So it's often with mice or with ferrets, and they look for 2 things. One, did they kill any animals? That's bad. And number 2, what kind of an immune response did they get? And so that's what Inovio is announcing today.
Welcome back, guys. Today I want to finish off on another spread video, as I mentioned earlier. It's very important that I bring this to guys because many people do not watch TV. Many people are very uninformed. Many people are ignorant to what we're seeing to keep ourselves informed. They either have just never been used to it, don't understand it, don't care, or don't think they need to. Whatever it is, they don't. And if you happen to be one of those people and you happen to stumble upon my videos, then I take it as a duty to keep you guys as informed as I am. So you saw yesterday's video, which was a buffet restaurant type setting. This is a dinner table, dinner place, but can also apply with the coughing part to this video. That can also apply to an office when we go back. It can also apply to a classroom when we go back. And more importantly, it can apply to public transport. So guys, take a look at this video and see why it's important for us to wear masks. Why our government was off their rockers, yeah? To tell people masks is not important. Think of the NHS. Well, if you got face covering, that's fine. Because no other government's telling the people that. Not even madman Trump taking hydroxychloroquine is even though he's not wearing it, he's happy to take chloroquine for protection, but he's not happy to wear a mask. But even though he's not wearing a mask, he's at least doing the right thing, telling people to wear the mask. So guys, take a look at our last video for the day, which is another example of how this stuff can spread. Take a look.
To relax restrictions and stay-at-home orders, restaurants are slowly reopening their doors with limited capacity. But just how easily could germs spread during a dinner out? CNN's Randy Kay takes a first-hand look.
Put some in. And should I rub it all together as well?
This yellow-tinted goo is a mixture of petroleum jelly and fluorescent solution.
Under an ultraviolet light, this will glow.
Okay, and that's going to simulate germs on my hand.
Correct. So this will simulate contact spread, from you to other things that you touch and maybe touched by someone else.
Dr. Patrick Hughes is an ER doctor who oversees the emergency medicine simulation program at Florida Atlantic University.
Hi, ladies.
Hi. He invited us to lunch, designating me the so-called spreader, so we could see how germs on my hand, which could be coronavirus droplets, could spread in a restaurant setting. At our table, we keep our masks on to protect ourselves and each other.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure, thanks.
I pour water for everyone at the table.
This is great. Thanks for having us for lunch. Sure.
And pass around the food, wondering if I'm passing around the virus too.
Chips?
Oh, yeah, awesome, thank you.
Do you want me to take the bowl? Thank you.
We also share the salt and pepper. Then it's time to turn on the ultraviolet lights to see what I may have spread. Remember, I was the only one with what could have been the virus on my hand.
You didn't have any germs on you. I was the spreader. So when you look at my hands and look how it transferred to some of you just by sharing items at the table or a knife in this case or a water glass. I mean, even it only takes a little bit, right, to make somebody else sick.
How about that bowl of chips I passed around?
You can see where she touched the edge of the bowl to pass it around. The simulated germs, stuck right to the surface.
And then everybody else touches the bowl.
Same with the salt and pepper shakers and the pitcher of water. There was contact spread on the cups and menus too, even my lunch friends.
This is the spot where when Randy came in to have lunch with her friends, she touched right on the shoulder just to greet everybody, and you can see the outline of her palm print, her handprint right on the shirt. It's quite scary, the amount of spread that one person can have in a room like that.
We also wanted to see what would happen if you're out for lunch or dinner with a friend or your family at a restaurant and somebody coughs. So let's turn out the lights and let's see the cough.
There were now more droplets on the bowl of chips, the menus, and the water pitcher too.
Look at what happened to the fork after that simulated cough. Those would be real germs if that was a real cough. On my fork, I would have picked up the fork, not being able to see those germs with the naked eye.
Even the woman sitting to my right, several feet away from the mannequin that coughed, had droplets on her face.
You can see it's on her face, her glasses, her mask.
If she wasn't wearing a mask, she would have breathed it in.
Correct.
Randy Kay, CNN, Boca Raton, Florida.
Welcome back, guys. We've come to the end of today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, I started off with a little bit of a joke at the start. Like I said, sometimes it is nice to have a bit of a laugh. You know my platform's a serious one. You know we have a mission in hand, and we're never going to lose sight of that mission. Mission number 1 is to get you guys informed. Mission number 2 is to fight fake news. Mission number 3, expose fake news. Mission number 4 is to bring the important stuff to your attention, so that the next time you go back to the voting booth to vote, you won't vote a mad person like Trump. Guys, take good care. It's midweek today, Wednesday, and I shall see you guys back for the last 2 videos of the week. Take good care now. Bye-bye.